everybody, it's Kelly with Inky Hands Warm Hearts. How are you guys? So happy to have you with me today. I am making a double pull-out treat holder that is made for the Ghirardelli Bunnies. Now they come in a package and you get these little guys. And I wanted to include two on this treat. So they're going to be attached in like so. I'm going to put them to the side for right now, but let me show you how it works. So when your recipient gets it, they pull on this tagged end and out pop your Ghirardelli bunny chocolates. So isn't it cute? And then you slide it back in. Of course, it has your little well wishes here. And I used all three images. I used the chick and the duck and the bunny, put the two larger on the outside, and then I made my own kind of pattern paper behind my sentiment on my tagged piece. So there is what we're going to learn how to make today. So let's go ahead and get started. I did do some of the pieces ahead of time so that we could just make the video a little shorter. So I'm using the Easter Friends stamp set, and today's the first day that I am introducing it. It is a really great stamp set for Easter projects, and it is available in the new mini catalog. If you need a copy of a mini catalog and you do not have a demonstrator and you want me to be your demonstrator, just contact me. I'll be happy to send one to you. Or you can go to inkyhandswarmhearts.com, which is my blog, and I do have a PDF version of it on my website where you can definitely check it out. But this is a great little stamp set. I absolutely love it, and we are going to be using it this whole week. I've also paired it with this particular die set. It's called Hippo and Friends. And even though it has a matching stamp set, I use these label dies all the time. And I'm going to be using this large piece here. That's what I used to do the decoration here on this tag. So I'll show you that in a few minutes. Let me move our things out of the way and we'll get started. So what you want to do is you want to start with a piece of 4" by 10 1/8 inch. And this is Bermuda Bay cardstock from Stampin' Up. So I'm going to grab my Simply Scored tool here, and I'm going to put it in the long way in here. And at the bottom, there's a stylus that comes attached to this board here. So I'm going to score it, and that way we'll prepare it to wrap up and do all of the fun things that we're going to be doing. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started, and we'll do the scoring. Let me just double check that I have the right measurements for you. All right. So what we are going to do is we are going to score at 1/2 inch first. And I prefer to use the larger ball end, but it doesn't really matter. It's just what I've always used. So 1/2 inch, then 7/8 of an inch, 3 7/8 of an inch. And eighths are all these little tick marks. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7/8. So 3 7/8, and then 4 1/4. The quarter are the little bit longer marks. So 4 1/4, and then 7 1/4. And that's all the scoring. So we did at 1/2 inch, at 7/8 of an inch, at 3 7/8 of an inch, at 4 1/4 inches, and at 7 1/4 inches. So those are your score marks on your piece of 4 by 10 1/8 inch. So these score marks, we're going to go ahead and burnish along those. And I like to use my bone folder to do that, to really get them into my cardstock. And as you do this folding, you just want to make sure that your sides are even, so that when you push down your paper, that you're not off on your sides, and that will get you nice straight score marks. Okay, so there's our main piece here. All right, fun, fun, fun. we're gonna start on not the section that has the 2 small score marks, but this side right here. And it's gonna form our little band. So what we are going to need for this is a punch that I have used to make notches. And I have marked a 1/2 inch from the end of my punch up, and I have a little piece of tape on here, so I've written it on the tape. It's not actually on my actual punch, but we are going to use this so that I get these little notches on the ends of this piece. So I'm going to go ahead and open my punch. I'm going to start on this side, and I'm going to feed it in, and I'm going to put this 1/2 inch mark on that score line. And I'm only going to feed it in so that I get this first notch and this second one. I don't need this middle section. You'll see as I punch. So we want it to be punched into the one that's next to this large panel, not the one with the small ends. So I'm going to just turn it upside down so I can get my punch in there really well. I'm going to line that punch up, and see, that's too much. I just want these 2 edges right there. So it's virtually a very small piece, and I just want to make sure that those are lined up and that this line is on my score mark, and it is. So I'm just gonna go ahead and give it a punch, and it's gonna punch a notch. Okay, now I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side, but I have to turn my punch this way, which is why I have the 1/2 inch mark score on this side as well. And I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna put it in so that that score line is lined up with my 1/2 inch mark, and that only those 2 pieces right here of the punch are in the piece, and we're gonna go ahead and push that, and then now we have 2 notches. So we need to cut these little notches because we need an indentation here, because we're gonna have a mechanism inside of this panel, and the mechanism is going to allow the slider to slide around, and I'll show you now in a minute. So you can go to the supermarket, and of course, you know, they have the plastic bags, so we might as well recycle them, right? So I have taken a piece of plastic bag and I have cut it to 1 inch by 8 inches, and it's just a portion of a plastic bag. So if you get, when you're at a store, if you ask them for an extra one that's not doesn't have anything in it, it'll be flat, and you can put it in your guillotine cutter and cut yourself some. I like using the guillotine cutter to cut rather than a sliding blade because it just cuts a lot cleaner on the plastic. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring this to the back side, and then I'm gonna bring it here to the front, and it's gonna fit in that notch. You see why I use that punch? And I don't know if I gave you the name of that punch, but it's Label Me Lovely, and it's in the annual catalog. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring that piece, and then this one is gonna go up onto it. But for right now, I'm gonna go ahead and leave that hanging, and we're just gonna use the side. I'm going to be using tear and tape because it's strong and it's easy to stick onto this plastic bag. So I'm just gonna pull it out of my bag here, and I'm just going to tear off a small piece about the size that should fit right here, and if it hangs over, I will just bend it over the top, which is fine. So I'm gonna put one there, and I'm gonna put another one next to it. I'm just gonna have 2 of them. Let's see if there we go. I'm gonna grab a second piece. So we're just gonna have 2 of these side by side, and I'm gonna use the pointy end of my Take Your Pick tool. You know I love this thing. And I'm gonna slide it right here and lift up the backing. Well, first let me burnish that down so that it adheres to the bag, because I don't want to lift the adhesive up, just the backing. So I'm just gonna slide that in there, and then it allows me to lift up the backing. I'm gonna try and fold this piece. You see how sticky it is? I don't want anything sticking out, so I'm going to fold it up against itself here back onto this plastic bag. Come on, work for me, guys. There we go. All right, and then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to go ahead and slide underneath and lift this piece up, And hopefully it's stuck down real good. And I'm gonna slide under there. There we go. And now my sticky pieces are down. These can be thrown away, it's just the cover. And I'm going to go ahead and attach this piece of plastic to that piece of plastic. And whatever's sticking up, I'm gonna trim that away. I don't need that extra. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use my scissors here and cut along that piece. And we can throw this piece away. So you just want it, you don't want it super tight, but you don't want it loose either. So just where it meets without stretching the plastic. Okay, so this is going to be our sliding mechanism, which is going to help that tag to slide back and forth. So we have our notches, we have our piece in here. Now, we're going to attach something to this piece, and it is going to be our tag. So I've made our tag by taking a piece of 2 7/8 inch, because this section is 3 inches. And I wanted it to be just a little bit smaller on either side. And I've taken my die here, and the 9-inch piece, I folded it in half so it's nice and thick. And I took my die and I slid it in from my paper into the die so that this part here is attached, and I have put it into the die like this. Then I ran it through my die cut machine. Because this piece of the die, the back piece, is not on top, it will not cut my paper. So when I pull it away, I have this little piece on here, and I didn't tear it away so I could show you guys, but we're gonna go ahead and pull that off. And then I put adhesive on the half piece at first before I went to it. Now it does give you an indentation on the other side, but it doesn't matter. Nobody is gonna see that. It's gonna be on the inside when you pull your tag out, and no one will notice it. So this has formed our tag. So this is your 2 7/8 by 9 inches. You fold it in half, you score it in the middle, and then you glue the 2 layers together. You just want it to be really strong because it's the piece that's going to be pulled in and out, and you don't want it to be weak. So I wanted to do a double ply piece. So once I glued it together, I then cut that decorative edge with my Hippo and Friends die. And then this piece is what is left over, so this forms my tag. I'm also going to take a 1/2 inch circle punch, which Stampin' Up! No longer carries these, but I'm sure if you have been crafting for a while, or even if you haven't, you will have access to a 1/2 inch circle punch. You're just gonna go ahead and insert it right here on this portion of the tag. Just slide it in where you can't see this section because you want it to be in a little bit, right? And you're just going to punch a hole, which is where we are going to attach our ribbon pieces. Now, on the tag on my slider, I decorated it with these cute little chicks. I've stamped them in 2 different colors, in Melon Mambo and Bermuda Bay. And then I took a piece of Bermuda Bay cardstock and I stamped it with our Tuxedo Black Memento ink pad and did my sentiment, and I attached it onto that white piece. So we're gonna do that now before we glue this into our mechanism. So let's go ahead, and I've already stamped all the pieces, but I do need to pull them out. And we'll go ahead and adhere this to our punched piece. So let's go ahead, and I like to use a wet adhesive. So we're gonna go ahead and use that, and we'll put that on the back here. And I will attach this. And I just want to leave my top and bottom borders even. No one's going to see all the way back because the tag won't push all the way out. So just make sure you have a little bit of room around that tag piece. And then we're going to attach the words. And if you'll see when I pull out, it's pretty close to that edge. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use my wet adhesive. I really should have my silicone mat down because knowing me, I'll make a mess. But I'm living on the wild side today. All right, so I'm now going to attach this piece and just leave a little bit of an edge and put that right there on my panel. Now this is the piece that we are going to attach onto our slider, and it's going to slide out. So we want to make sure that when we attach it, that it is sticking out like so. All right. And if it is a little close to your edge where you're worried that it's not going to fit in there nicely, just bring in your guillotine cutter. I have a mini one from Stampin' Up, but you can get these on Amazon, or you may already own one. This was a promotion that they gave to the demonstrators, and when I signed up, I happened to get this cutter, but I have seen them on Amazon. My customers have bought some on Amazon, and so definitely check out if you would like to have a guillotine cutter. I just like it because it's real easy. So now I have a little extra room. So definitely you want to make sure that your piece fits in these 2 score marks, right? So what we're going to do is on that same section where we put that adhesive, we're going to put 2 more pieces. So I'm going to put one there and one next to it. And those, just make sure I don't overlap them, but there they are. I'm going to use my bone folder again to make sure they stick to that piece of plastic, and then I'm going to use my take your pick tool to lift up these pieces here. And we're going to go ahead and also lift this piece. So let's go ahead and pick up the backing on the tear and tape. Okay, and we're going to push down that. All right, let's get rid of these. And we're going to go ahead and attach our tag. And remember, the part that you want sticking out, make sure that it is sticking out. And we're going to evenly place it in between those 2 marks. I want to make sure that that much is out. So before I press it onto that tear and tape, I push that into place. And now I will attach that onto my slider. Let me make sure that I have that correctly, because I think I just told you wrong. I did. All right, sorry. Good thing I didn't have that on there. Good. Let me put another little piece of tear and tape on there, because like you said, everybody makes mistakes, and I just had a little thought that I had glued that wrong, and I had. I'm going to add a small piece on the bottom. Luckily, it didn't stick too well yet. It does stick hard over time, but all right, so there. What I wanted to tell you was I'm going to place that on this section here instead, because I want it to pull out from the right direction. So definitely make sure that your tag is sticking out as much as you want it to hold out, okay? Then you're going to bring this down. That's what I meant to tell you. And you're going to stick it down like that, because you want it to be backwards, because that way when your piece is put together, it will be the right way when you pull it out. Now on this side is where we're going to attach our piece that the chocolate is going to be on. So this piece is a piece of Melon Mambo. And let's see what size it is. It's 2 3/4 by 3 7/8. And we're going to go ahead and attach that on this side. So remember, we put that down here so that we could stick it to that piece. And now this is going to get attached to this piece. So we're going to put adhesive now on the opposite side. So let's go ahead and grab 2 pieces of our tear and tape. We're going to attach one on this end and another one next to it. I just wanted to make sure that I had enough adhesive on there to really grab my cardstock. So there's my 2 pieces. Again, make sure that they stick to your plastic there. And then we're going to go ahead and lift the backing up without lifting our adhesive, hopefully. Tear and tape can get a little bit... There we go. It is a little bit challenging to lift up, but it's well worth it because it's nice and strong. So there's one. Let's do the other one. There we go. All right, So now, this piece here, we're going to attach onto, and we want it to be inside so no one suspects that there's anything coming out of that side, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and attach that. Now I'm gonna use my seal adhesive, and I'm gonna put adhesive on the back of my candies. So I'm just gonna run a nice line of seal, which should hold them into place fairly well, onto the backs of my candy pieces. So they're sticking out. I'm gonna put one on this end and one on this end, right next to it. So now I have my two candy pieces in place, okay? Now, this big border, not the skinny one, but the larger one, we're gonna put adhesive, we're gonna bend it forward, we're gonna put adhesive on this portion. So I'm gonna run a whole piece of our tear and tape. Onto that piece. And I'm gonna go ahead and use my bone folder, press that into place, and slide take your pick tool, pull it back. Okay, we're gonna get rid of that. Now, let me move this out of the way. When we glue this down, we want it to stick to this blue Bermuda Bay, not onto this pink Melon Mambo. So we want to make sure that it is in this position. This is going to be the top edge. That's where the candy is going to hide in this section, right? So when we glue it down, we want to make sure we wrap it on the other side of the Melon Mambo. So lift it over the top. And then we want this scored edge to be even with this edge of our Bermuda Bay. So once you have that, you just line that up. And then I stick my fingers behind that pink piece, and I'm gonna grab on both sides and really get those corners first. And then I can take my bone folder and slide it all the way in and press it down. The reason I want my corners first is I want it to hold its shape. So now you have that nice squared edge on the top, that nice squared edge on the bottom, and you have our tag piece and our hidden candies. Now we have to decorate obviously the outside, right? And we're gonna do that, but let's make sure our mechanism is working. So we're gonna pull, and there it is. And push back in, pull, push back in. Let's decorate the outside of our cute piece. Now, I have chosen to take a piece of our Pattern Party, which is a Hostess paper pack you can get free with a $150 party. So if you'd like to hold an online party or a Facebook party, contact me. I'd be happy to help you with that. So we are going to be attaching this paper onto this piece. So this time, instead of me living on the edge, let me pull out my silicone mat so that I don't make a big mess. And this Pattern Party paper is black and white on one side and colored on the other. So I'm going to use my liquid adhesive, and I'm putting adhesive on the colored side. And the black and white side, I have colored it with my blends. I used my light Bermuda Bay and my light Melon Mambo. And all I did was go around those black and white lines, went right over the top of them, because I wanted to make my own plaid to match the colors that I had chosen for this piece. So all the pink lines went across with the Melon Mambo, and all the Bermuda Bay, the greenish blue, went down. And all I did was stroke right over the black lines and went right over the tops of them with my markers. And these are the Stampin' blends. So there's my little decorative piece. Now, I have my bunny, and I want him, as you can see, to hold this little Easter sign, which I have stamped, but I'm going to use my Banners Pick-a-Punch. I'm going to use this point piece, and I'm going to go ahead and stick my piece in here and punch, and there's my one end. Let's stick the other side in. It punches 1/2 inch. I think I want this one a little shorter, so let me stick it in one more time. All right, there we go. So that forms my little bannered ends, but you can stick in a 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, or 1 inch. There's channels, and there's 2 different types of banners that you can get with this punch. But I wanted the bunny to hold on to that little sign. So in order to do that, I'm going to cut around his little paws. So I'm just going to use an X-Acto knife. And I usually just cut on, when I use an X-Acto knife, I just have a piece of glass that I use to cut with. So it's just a small piece of glass. I'm just going to follow the artist's lines here, and I'm just going to use the point of the X-Acto knife and follow around so that those paws will be cut. See, now I can tuck my little sign under his paw right there. So it's just a quick tip. Any glass shop or mirror shop can cut a piece of glass for you, and I got a 1/4 inch thick piece. They can use scraps, and you just go down to a glass place and ask them if they can use a scrap and cut you a small piece of glass about a 1/4 inch thick. They always have glass left over, so they'd be happy to do it, and it's very inexpensive. All right, so I'm going to put adhesive along the bottom of my bunny right here, and also just a couple drops under the part that's going to hold the paws so that it sticks there as well. And I'm just gonna, tuck my little Happy Easter in there wherever I feel is good, and that bunny will hold onto that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and use my dimensionals. I have small and large, and I've already cut my ducky. I did make a video on how to color the bunny and the duck, so if you're interested in that, you can check it out on my channel. I'm going to put a dimensional over the top of that cut piece to hold it into place, and then I'm just going to work my way around the bunny and fill in wherever I think it needs to be lifted up here. Same thing with the duck. Put one there, one at the bottom. We use, that's probably good. And then I'm going to use some smaller ones in here where the wings are and where the feet. Are. And I'm also going to put a small one on the bunny's feet here as well. And that should be good. All right. So I always use my take your pick tool for these. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the backs off of my dimensionals, which is why I love my take your pick tool so much. I use it for so many things on my projects. It's definitely the best $10 I've ever spent. It's a $10 price point in the United States. And I love this tool. Grab that last one. All right. So let's go ahead and put our bunny on and our ducky. So I have to figure out placement. So I'm just going to kind of hold them without gluing them down and figure out, I kind of want the duck looking like he may be holding on to the sign a little. So let's kind of, there we go. And they are buddies, right? So he's allowing his duck friend, stick the bunny down. He's allowing his duck friend here to help him hold his sign. There's the duck. Sorry if I got out of camera there for a second. I didn't mean to. So there's our little banner. Isn't it so cute? Now let's decorate this end here. And we're going to be using this beautiful white frayed ribbon. It's so soft. Here I've cut a piece of it. And this piece of the ribbon is 7 inches. And then this is our black and white gingham ribbon, and it is 5 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold this. I'm going to bring it through from the back to the front, and I'm just going to lay those pieces down. And I'm going to lift them up for a second, and I'm going to tuck that black and white behind it. And all I'm going to do is cross the ends. And then tie it in a tight knot as close to that point as I can muster. So I'm going to give it a nice little tight squeeze there. And then I'm going to double knot it. So I'm going to do one more knot on top of that one. And that will form my attached piece here. Now I'm going to just trim these edges so that they're all nice and pretty. And I do have a pair of paper snips that I use that have a little charm on them. I only use them when I use ribbon because I like them to be nice and sharp. And paper does dull scissors, so you can use it for your paper but not for your fabric. So there is one, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this next one as well. Same direction, but it may go a little lower here on this side. So there's my little ends of ribbon, and then I will go ahead and discard these. But I really like the look of the ribbon around that tag piece. And we can slide that back in. And then again, you just pull out, there come your candies, and push back in. And there they are. I hope that you've enjoyed watching me put together this project, that you learned a lot. And if you have any questions, please do put them in the description below. I'm going to go over the measurements one more time. The piece of Bermuda Bay cardstock, which is our main piece, was 4 inches by 10 1/8, and it was scored at 1/2 inch, 7/8 of an inch, 3 7/8 of an inch, 4 1/4, 7 1/4. The piece of plastic bag that we used was 1 inch by 8 inches, and the piece of paper of the Melon Mambo that I folded in half and die cut with this hippo die was 2 7/8 by 9. I did have to trim it down on either side, so you may want to go 2 3/4 by 9, but definitely fold it in half, adhere your glue in the middle, make sure that it's dry before you run it through your die cut machine so that once it's cut, it's ready to be glued in place. I used a piece of basic white cardstock to do my bunny and my ducky, and that was a piece of 6 inches by 2 1/8, and I was able to stamp both of these guys on it. The piece of basic white for the inside here, where I stamped the chicks, that is a piece of 2 1/2 by 3 1/2 inch basic white cardstock, and the piece of Bermuda that I put on top of that was 1 1/4 inches by 2 1/2 inches. The piece of Melon Mambo that went on the inside that my bunnies was on was a piece of 2 3/4 by 3 7/8 of an inch. And then my words here was on a piece of 3/4 of an inch by 3 1/2 inch of Melon Mambo. The designer series paper that I used for the top was 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. And then my ribbon pieces, the larger, thicker ribbon was 7 inches, and the smaller, thinner ribbon was 5 inches. And I think that that's all the dimensions that you need. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'd be happy to help you out. If you need a copy of the catalog, or if you are looking for a demonstrator, I would love to be your demonstrator. Just reach out to me at kelly@inkyhandswarmhearts.com, and it's Kelly with an I, not a Y. And I'd be happy to talk to you about it. Thank you so much. I have linked in the description below all the products that I used here in case you'd like to purchase them from my online store. And please share my video. It helps me bring you more content if you do share my video. And subscribe for more content as well. You'll get notifications on YouTube as to when I post new videos. Thanks again for watching. And this is Kelly with Inky Hands Warm Hearts. Happy stamping!